For years, on almost every first date I ever went on, I was performing. I wasn't lying and I wasn't pretending to be somebody I wasn't, but performing like in trying to prove something, trying to impress him, trying to make sure he liked me. So I'm going to share with you exactly what that looked like because I think a lot of you might be doing this too and you don't even realize it. Before I even left the house, my head was already thinking thoughts like, I hope he likes me. I hope I don't screw this up. I hope I don't say the wrong thing. And even, do I look okay? That was the soundtrack in my head before so many of my first dates. And once I was actually sitting across from somebody, the performance continued. I laughed at things that I didn't even think were funny. I agreed with opinions I didn't always share, just to keep things easygoing, just to go along to get along. I asked questions, but I wasn't always paying 100% to the answers because I was too in my head, busy managing how I was going to come across. And here's something else that's even a little embarrassing. I had a habit of wearing the hardest things I'd ever been through in my life, almost like a badge of honor. When someone asked me to tell them about myself, I would talk about being a single mom, that I had been divorced twice, everything I'd survived. Not to spill my guts, and I never said anything bad about anybody because that's not my thing, but there was something underneath it, a need to prove how strong I was, how much I'd overcome, like a laundry list, kind of things that I had been through that was supposed to earn me something. I was so focused on being chosen that I never stopped to ask myself the most important question. Did I actually like him? Because I was always focused on if he liked me. So let me share a shift that I made that changed everything. For most of my dating life, I approached first dates kind of like an audition. I was the one being evaluated. Basically, my job was to perform well enough to get a call back, right? To be likable, agreeable, impressive, to pass the test. What changed gradually through years of doing real work on myself was realizing that a first date is not an audition. It's actually a discovery. I don't like using the word interview. I know a lot of people use that. But in a discovery, both people are finding out if it's worth pursuing. You are not there to be chosen. You are there to find out if he deserves more of your attention. That shift didn't happen overnight, but it built slowly through therapy and personal development work and a real lot of honest conversations with myself. But it got really clear for me after a 3-year relationship ended when I was ghosted. I took a break after that. And when I came back to dating, I had finally reached a place in my life where I knew that if I never met anybody, I would be okay. That knowing completely changed how I showed up, not just in dating, but in my life. After that break, I updated my profile. I included that I was divorced twice. I had 3 kids, with one still living at home. I was overweight, but working on it, plus exactly what I was looking for, right up front. And when I say exactly what I was looking for, I'm not talking about the physical stuff like height or hair color or whether they had hair or not. I did it because I wanted men to read it so that they could decide yes or no and move on if it wasn't right for them. I was working, full-time mom, had a side job, and I didn't have time to waste. So I wanted to make sure that they could read all that stuff before we got to a phone call. That way, the phone call was more about the other important stuff instead of, do you have kids? Have you ever been married? And other questions that could easily be read in a profile. That's a different kind of clarity than walking around with a badge of honor. One was about earning approval, and the other was about respecting my own time and boundaries. I think that so many women waste months, sometimes years, because they're not clear enough upfront about who they are and what they want. And part of the reason for that is because they're not sure exactly what they want, although they're very clear about what they don't want. Clarity isn't harsh. It's actually one of the kindest things you can do for yourself and for the people you're dating. Once I made that shift, I also got much clearer about what I was watching for and how quickly I was willing to act on it. I started thinking in terms of pink flags besides the normal red and green ones. A red flag was something fundamental. Our values didn't line up. Someone into heavy drinking or going to bars all the time, which wasn't really my thing, or how somebody spoke or acted when I told them I was Jewish, as well as other important things for me. Those were done deals for me. One date, no more time invested. It was an easy choice. A pink flag, though, was something a little softer. Maybe he seemed a little awkward. Maybe I wanted to see if his actions actually matched his words before I decided to make a decision, or if I could see some potential there. Those were worth a second look, sometimes even a third or fourth, although looking back, I probably could have listened to my gut faster in some of those cases. But pink flags got a little more leeway for me because nerves and red flags are not the same thing. There was one date I almost didn't listen to my new system. Once I told him that I was a life coach and not a sports coach, which is what he assumed. Somewhere early on in the date, he started venting about his ex-wife, what a bitch she was, what a horrible wife and mother she was, all of it. He basically tried to turn the date into a free therapy session. Well, I'm not a therapist. There's a difference. And I'm also not big into people bashing their exes. It does not make them look good. But that was a clear red flag for me. I knew it in the moment, and I still went on a second date with him because I hadn't fully trusted myself yet. But that second date confirmed everything the first one already told me. And that's a good reminder. Even when you're doing work on yourself, you can still override your own gut sometimes because the journey is not a clear up path all the time. The goal isn't perfection. It's being aware and getting faster at trusting yourself, which is one of the things we're going to touch on in my upcoming membership program, the Becoming Her Sisterhood. So if you'd like to hear more about it, the link is in the description. But I want to talk to you about what it feels like when something is off during a date, because it's almost always physical before it's mental. For me, I would feel this pit in my stomach, or my shoulders, or my neck would tense up without me even realizing it first. For most of my dating life, I never said anything in the moment because I was the good girl and I didn't want to be rude. I would notice it, file it away, and decide afterwards. Once in a rare while at the end if he said something about seeing me again, but mostly after, when I had time to think about it more. But there was one time I didn't wait. He made a comment about how he felt about same-sex marriage, and one of my daughters is queer. I didn't have to wait until the end of that one. I told him right then and there that I have a queer daughter, and I don't think that this is going to work. He seemed like a nice enough guy otherwise, but that mattered to me more than keeping the date comfortable. That moment taught me something really important. When somebody touches your values, not just a preference, but something core to what you believe, who you are, and who you love, you don't have to wait for the end of the date to honor that. You're allowed to say something the minute it matters to you. I see this pattern a lot in women I work with, and I lived it myself for a long time. So here are a few common mistakes worth mentioning. Oversharing too early. Leading with trauma or hardship as if it's a credential before there's been space to actually connect as people. Performing instead of being present. Laughing at things that aren't funny, agreeing with things you don't actually believe, all in the name of being easygoing and likable. Also, not really listening, asking questions, but already thinking about your next response instead of genuinely hearing the answer. And the biggest one, forgetting that you're allowed to be evaluating too. You are not auditioning for his approval. You're finding out if he's worth your time. The fix for all of this is simpler than it sounds, but it does take practice. Ask questions because you really want to know the answers, not because you're trying to seem interested. Listen to understand him, not to figure out what to say next. Let there be a silence here and there. Instead of rushing to fill it, which is really hard sometimes if you're nervous or if you're one of those kind of people who doesn't, where silence makes you uncomfortable. Notice how you feel in your body when he's talking, not just the words coming out of his mouth, but how your body is reacting. And give yourself permission to not perform. You do not have to be the most fascinating, accomplished, easygoing version of yourself. You just have to be yourself. If that's not enough for him, he was never the right one anyway. So here's the question that I want you to start asking yourself after every single first date, instead of the usual, did he like me? Instead, ask yourself, did I like him? Not, did I perform well? Not, did I say the right things? Not, will he ask me out again? Did I actually enjoy being around this person? Did I feel like myself? Was I genuinely interested in him, or was I just trying to be interesting? The did I like him question flips the entire dynamic. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your own dating life, which means that you are at choice. The right person for you doesn't need a performance. He doesn't need your resume of hardship to be impressed. He doesn't need you to agree with everything he says or laugh at jokes that aren't funny. He doesn't need the polished, easygoing, strategically charming version of you. He needs to meet the real you, your real, authentic self. And that is the only way that it happens if you show up as her. And if you're ready to stop doing this alone, I'm building something for exactly this. It's called the Becoming Her Sisterhood, like I mentioned before. It's a membership for women over 50 who are done waiting and ready to do this work together. It's launching soon, and the waitlist is in the comments, the link. So get on it so you're the first to know about when the doors open. And while you're there, comment the word guide, and I'll send you my new free guide, 5 lies women over 50 believe about love and the truth that changes everything. It might be exactly what you need to read today. And if this video helped, please subscribe, because every week this channel we talk about real love, real growth, and what it takes to create the relationship you deserve, because your best relationship starts with you. And drop a comment below. Have you ever left a first date and realized that you spent the entire time performing instead of actually deciding if you liked him? I'll see you next week.